Of course, I've been telling you about the fiscal cliff and the grand bargain for a long, long time. The fiscal cliff is the part where they say, oh my God, we're going to raise taxes and cut spending, and we might actually balance the budget. Wait a minute. Okay, now, of course, Washington has been claiming all this time that that's exactly what they wanted to do, but when it's actually happening, because of laws set to expire at the end of this year, they're in a panic and they call it a fiscal cliff. Oh my God, no way, no way, no way. So what do they got to do? They're going to shift costs, as I've been telling you forever. They're going to put it on the poor and the middle class. Now, when I say things like, hey, they're definitely going to cut Medicare and Medicaid, how many times have I said that? A million, right? Some Obama supporters are like, oh, New Jack, you're crazy, man. No, Obama said he was going to protect entitlements. You're making that stuff up. And when I say he's going to cut corporate taxes, I say, oh, come on, Jack, get out of here, get out of here, come on. But I didn't make it up. We've shown you video clips of Obama himself saying, I want to cut corporate taxes. Then when I said, hey, you know what? Perhaps they might even lower taxes on the rich. I mean, that's when Obama supporters have their hair on fire. It's inconceivable. We just ran in a whole election about raising taxes on the rich, raising their rates. So we go to David Plouffe, who is one of the top advisors for President Obama and helped him to win that election. So he's speaking here. One of the guys he's on the stage with is Steve Schmidt. And he explains what they actually intend to do with this grand bargain. Let's watch.
We also need to engage in entitlement reform. You know, Medicare, Medicaid carefully. These are chief drivers of our deficit. We made a lot of progress with Obamacare. There's a lot more to do. And there's other spending we have to cut. And so where I think the big bottleneck right now is Republicans in Congress around revenue and how much and where does it come from, Democrats are also going to have to step up here and do some tough things. And, you know, the notion that somehow that these deficits and our debt are not a threat to our national security and our economic future is something I could not disagree with more strongly, as does the president. There are some, maybe not so much in our party, but some commentators on the left that suggest that.
So first of all, of course, we got all the Republican talking points out of the mouth of the top advisor for the so-called Democratic president. Oh, the deficit, it is a national security threat. Okay, great. Then go over the fiscal cliff. You raise taxes, you cut spending. I'm saying cut the spending. Cut half from defense, half from really tough cuts, including AIDS research, et cetera, right? So are you going to do that? No. Because you don't want to balance the budget. You don't believe that. You're just doing a Republican talking point. But put that aside. We know that they buy into all the Republican talking points. Do you hear what he said? Well, we're going to have to do entitlement reform. I mean, that might make people on the left angry. Yeah, because we just had an election where you pretended to be a progressive who was going to protect Medicare. Now you are saying you are definitely going to cut Medicare, just like I told you. In fact, in case that wasn't clear enough, here he is again. Remember, one of the top advisors to the president, and he says it himself. You saw it in that video. I think, and the president thinks.
I think what we need to do, and the president believes this, is let's go for the big deal. Let's go for something that we can say for a 10 to 20 year period. For the first time in a long time, our country's on the right sustainable fiscal path. The only way that gets done is for Republicans, again, to step out and get mercilessly criticized by Grover Norquist and the right. And it means Democrats are going to have to do some tough things on spending and entitlements that they'll get criticized by their left.
They're coming for your entitlements, man. And it's definitely Medicare and Medicaid. But it might also be Social Security. How do you like that election where we voted for the progressive, right? We voted for the guy who was supposed to protect Social Security and Medicare and against the guy who we thought was going to cut Social Security and Medicare. And believe me, Romney would have cut it too, right? But come on, they're not going to lower taxes on the rich. That's crazy. That was the whole central plank of the campaign, right? I've got to be wrong. So go ahead, David Plouffe. Show me how wrong I am.
On the immediate question of the tax cuts, we want to extend them for most people. But what we also want to do is engage in a process of tax reform that would ultimately produce lower rates, even potentially for the wealthiest. A lower corporate tax rate, which is something the president called for in the campaign to help with competitiveness, by making the tax code simpler, clearing out a lot of loopholes.
Even lower rates for the wealthy. You didn't mishear him. He didn't say higher rates for the wealthy, as Obama campaigned on. He said lower rates for the wealthy. Oh, they're gonna rob you blind. This whole thing is a farce. We've lost our democracy. The people who actually do the real election are the donors. They select two guys who are false choices for us, and they're both paid. They both got over $1 billion in money. You think those people put in $1 billion for their health? Yes, there were some small donors, and yes, Obama had more small donors than Romney. But overall, the lion's share of the money comes from the large donors who want their tax breaks. It could be in a Democratic form, it could be in a Republican form. It doesn't matter. They're getting it. That's what's happening. And where are they going to get it from? They're going to get it from Medicare and Social Security. By the way, Dick Durbin, supposed to be one of the tough progressives in the Senate. Leadership, right? Number 2 guy in the Senate for the Democrats. Quote, I listen to voices from the left, and many of them say, don't touch any of the entitlement programs. I don't think that's a responsible approach. Somebody take out the scissors, the shears. They're going to cut it. You don't have a choice. It's between Republicans that now call themselves Democrats and radicals that used to call themselves Republicans. Okay? And now, in the middle of an article in the New York Times about the administration position, I also found another quote that gives you an excellent indication. You got to know how to read these articles. Okay? Now, let me read you the quote and explain what it means. Quote, altogether, the Treasury Department thinks it could raise $749 billion over 10 years by limiting deductions for higher earners. That's substantially more than the $684 billion it thinks it could raise from increasing their tax rates. So what does that mean? That means, hey, we don't have to increase their tax rates. We can actually get more revenue by limiting deductions, etc. So don't worry that we're not actually raising their rates as we told you we were going to do. And we might, in fact, lower them because we'll get rid of some loopholes in deductions, and that'll do the trick. And the whole New York Times article was about getting rid of the home mortgage deduction. Now, how much of it are they going to get rid of? Is it only going to be for example, second homes, which is not a bad deal, okay? Because that would, of course, be more for the top bracket. Or is it going to hit the middle class too? Wait till you get a load of how bad that screws you. Can you imagine if they say, I'm lowering Social Security, I'm lowering Medicare, I'm lowering taxes on the rich, definitely lowering taxes on corporations, and I'm taking away your home mortgage deduction. How's your hair not going to be on fire, man? And these guys, they're the ones that pretend to be progressives. Do you know who's in charge of the negotiations for the Obama side? I'm going to end the conversation right here. Tim Geithner. It's over, man. It's over. You know what happens when a Republican negotiates with a Republican? The Republican wins.